Welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches making the big time where they're at. I am your host, Gage Rozier. Today's episode is sponsored by TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr provides strength conditioning software to athletics programs around the country. Whether you write your own programs or want access to over 100 templates, TeamBuildr can make your program more efficient, more accountable, and smarter when it comes to measuring your team's effort in the weight room. Visit their website and start a 14-day free trial at teambuildr.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today to the Big Time Strength Podcast. Today we are joined by Coach Michael Doscher. He is the head strength conditioning coach at Valdosta State. He has, over his 23 years there, been fortunate enough to work with a lot of great teams, a lot of great athletes. Has won some national championships with those teams and been able to be a part of that. And he brings the energy in this episode. You can tell he's passionate. He has a big standard and a big role with those athletes there at Valdosta, and I really appreciate him coming on and sharing his passion and a little bit about his program. Before we get to the episode, our resource review section today is brought to you by Optimum Nutrition Athletics. So protein is key to muscle recovery, and gold standard 100% whey, the world's best-selling whey protein powder, provides 24 grams of protein that mixes easily just a glass and spoon. Gold standard 100% whey is made in Optimum Nutrition's state-of-the-art facilities in Aurora, Illinois, and is banned substance tested by Informed Choice. Through Optimum Nutrition's athletic program, you can also get ProGrainer for big athletes looking to become even bigger and ready to eat protein snacks, including protein crisp bars, cake bites, protein wafers, and protein almonds. After dominating the sports and nutrition industry for over 30 years, newly created Optimum Nutrition Athletics brings that same trust and quality that knows how to put convenient options for protein in the hands of athletes who desire to become bigger, stronger, and better at their sport. Thank you, Optimum Nutrition, for sponsoring this episode. Today's resource review, before we get to our interview with Coach Michael Doscher, is another podcast. It's called the Focus 3 podcast by Tim and Brian Kite. I have talked about them a little bit on this show before. I love these guys. I really encourage our listeners to check them out. Today I'm going to be talking about episode number 47 for them, developing a discipline-driven life. And I love their view on discipline. Discipline is one of the core values of our strength conditioning department here at Jewel Strength. And I just love how they break things down. I just wanted to share a little material from their talk on discipline-driven life. But as always, please check out their actual episode. It's definitely worth the time checking into it. So first thing they really want to talk about is clearing up and taking back what discipline actually means. And they talk about discipline is Latin for basically the process of learning. It's the ability to maintain control of yourself, to align your behavior with a standard to produce an outcome you want or need to produce. It's to learn something that becomes highly skillful. It's an internal decision to align behavior with standards. It's the willingness to subordinate an impulse to a principle, to a personal preference to a standard, the comfort of not doing the work to the discomfort of skill building. That's what discipline is, and when we talk about it, that's what we're talking about. And it's important to understand what it is not, and it's not a simple compliance or an obedience to something. And we talk about, oh, we got to discipline you because you did something wrong. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about we want our athletes to be disciplined. We want them to be disciplined and driven in that there's work that needs to be done, and you're not always going to feel like doing that work, but disciplined athletes, behaving people, do that work that needs to be done for the outcomes they want, regardless of how they feel. And that's kind of a main underlying behavior that we're trying to preach with our athletes here at William Jewell College. And something they talk about in this episode is being on path, and that means discipline driven. So we talk about, there's many paths to get the outcomes you want, whether that's, all conference or a winning season or, better marriage or whatever it might be. There are many paths to get that outcome, and it's important for any of those paths, there's going to be work that needs to be done. And discipline is recognizing the work, recognizing what that path is, and doing the work and saying no to the things that will take you off path. And I think that's a great just little mindset, and think about a sidewalk or whatever leading to your destination. It could be many different ways to get there, but the importance is knowing what needs to be done along that way and doing the work. They talk about the main reason people don't get what they want is because they don't commit to the process, because it's uncomfortable a lot of the times, of learning the skill required to drive the behavior that produces the outcome. So, and they talk about hearing does not mean knowing or doing. So discipline is staying along that path, doing those things, even when it's uncomfortable, because you know it's directing you towards the end goal you want. And the first step to kind of being disciplined, number one, is having a standard. And without a standard, you will naturally drift to kind of your default behavior and just kind of going with the wind. And you don't need standards in all of your life, but they really challenge everybody to, whatever areas in your life you really want to pursue certain goals, you need to find some standards in which you're going to live and pursue those goals. Whether it's in the weight room with our athletes, at home with your family, or whatever it is, what standards and areas of your life do you want to be on your heart or values, and then you be on a disciplined path based off those standards. So the last little just one-liner here out of this episode that I'll leave you with is really simple, fairly obvious, but it's really hard to compete or to execute, and the elite behaving people do. And it's know the goal, know the path, do the work. Know what you want to do, know the work it's going to take to get those goals, and then do the work. I love that. I love that mindset. It's a mindset we're trying to get with our athletes. It's simple, it's effective, and again, I encourage you guys to check out that podcast episode, Focus 3, number 47, Developing a Discipline-Driven Life. All right, guys, enough from me. Let's get to this episode. Coach Michael Doscher, thanks for tuning in. Hopes everybody has a great day. Hey, Coach Doscher, I really appreciate you coming on the Big Time Strength podcast. Let's fill our listeners in on where you're at right now, kind of your experience through strength conditioning, and tell us about Valdosta State.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on your program, and humbled to be asked to do it. Well, I'm at Valdosta State University. Been here for 23 years now. Been first full-time strength coach at Valdosta State University. We started out in a 900 square foot room that was in the middle of every other room. No windows, no air conditioning. 9-foot ceilings with pillars every 8 to 9 feet in between the walls. So it started out with like 3 squat racks, 2 incline, kilogram weights, old rusted ones. Floor that we thought was black but was really red. So we started from scratch there and built our way all the way up to a 7,500 square foot weight room with a lot of nice equipment, which the athletes deserve with all the success we've had at Valdosta State University, and just been running ever since then. We have 10 powerlift, 8-post racks where we can do cleans on the outside, squat on the inside, and bench on the other side, or we can have them do all squatting or all hang cleaning. So it's pretty nice setup. We have a medicine ball wall. We have a 30-yard indoor lanes to do some agility work, speed work in. So it's a really nice setup. So that's where it's been. As far as my background, I got my undergraduate at Springfield College. Then I did an internship at Boston College with Wes Emmert and Mark Wateska. And then from there, I went to UNLV out there with Dan Austin and Mark Felipe. And I did my internship there for a year as a restricted earnings coach position. And then from there, I went to Mississippi State with Dan Austin and got my master's there for 3 years. And then from there, I came here and been here ever since.
Well, that's a great background, Coach, and great background on your facility as well. And I'm sure the program's gone through obviously a lot of change from a facility standpoint, but I'm sure it's just completely different from when you started to where it is now and how you have it rolling now. So talk to a little bit about, what's your program's mission statement, and maybe what are some of those core values you really preach with your athletes?
Okay, well, the mission statement's pretty easy. When I tell recruits to come in, the weight room has three responsibilities in the weight room. One is injuries, 2 is athletic ability, and 3rd one's accountability. So we go over injuries. Injuries first, they're preventable injuries, and there's unpreventable injuries in every sport. Preventable injuries, usually one's because kids have bad technique. So I never care how much somebody lifts. I care how they lift it correctly. and then with that, and then the weight will come. So we lift it correctly first, and then we worry about the weight second, because lifting it correctly is going to cut down a lot of the common injuries that sports have, and prevent injuries that could have been prevented, like some hamstring pulls or back pulls or strains and stuff, because they're lifting properly with proper technique will then build up stability, mobility, and full range of motion in that structure, which won't give you a kink in your armor. Now, the ones that can't prevent, hopefully you'll make them less severe. Can't guarantee it, but if the joint structure has the most stability and most structure and doesn't leak power, it'll be able to absorb more and hopefully not blow out and just stretch. Matter of fact, we had an example of that this year. One of our running backs / tight ends, we thought he blew out his knee. I mean, it was a horrendous hit. The knee looked like it was destroyed, and they were saying he's done, he's over with. They did an MRI, and all he did was tear his ACL. We thought he tore everything. He wound up just tearing his ACL, and his leg was so strong because he squats 550 pounds that he was able to put a brace on and still play with an ACL and play in the national championship game, score a touchdown, and do several things there. So that's what we talk about, making the injuries you cannot prevent less severe, and hopefully they can play through them or get back faster, which he was able to do, which was real nice. And then athletic ability, well, if you have full stability, full range of motion, and full structure in that joint system and muscle structure, and then you don't leak power, well, you're creating as much power as you possibly can, thus making you run faster, jump higher, hit harder, move better and stuff like that. So that's helping you become a better athlete. And then accountability one's easy. Every player we have has a sheet that has their sets, reps, and weights they do based on what they tested on, and we just sign off the sheets after every exercise and make sure they did the last set correctly with the right weight and if they're doing it right. So that's the accountability part. So that's the way we approach the weight room. It's philosophy. It's pretty simple. My dad always told me the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. So that's the way we apply it in here. Just keep them healthy, keep them active, help them with their athletic ability, and then keep them accountable. Because at the end of the day, you always hear me say, I tell our athletes, I can only help. I can't do it for you. I'm not making you a better athlete. I'm just showing you what can help you become a better athlete. They have to do the work at the end of the day. So I tell them that every time they leave the weight room, they have to look in front of a mirror and look at me weird and say, why a mirror? I said, well, there's only two people in the world you can't lie to, and that's yourself and the man above. So if you can lie to yourself in the mirror when I ask you to ask these three questions, then it's you, it's not us. So I tell them that one, they do every set and every rep with the right weight. If they say yes to that, that's good. Did they do their best? Well, if I did every set with the right weight, how did I not do my best? Well, did you test your best? Because people can turn their testing and then and do every set and every rep with the weight. Did they test their best? If they did that, then okay, so they got their best work that day, and then did they get better? Well, coach, if I did first two, how did I not get better? Well, getting better is an intent. You have to come in with the intent to getting better, doing everything perfect, and doing the stuff that you don't like perfect also, because everybody has a habit of doing what they don't like, not perfect. You have to do what you don't like even harder, because that's what you're weakest at, and that's what you have to get better to get better. So that's the way we approach the weight room right now. If they say yes to all three, then they've done their job, and I've done my job to make sure that they're accountable to themselves. Like take a sport like football, because it's the biggest one. You're accountable to themselves, their position, their side of the ball, then the team, and then the tradition here at VSU. That's what I make them accountable to, is they have to make sure that they're accountable to those things every time they leave the weight room. So that's basically the philosophy and the mission statement of our weight room, using multi-jointed exercises, sports similar exercises, not sport specific, because the only thing specific to the sport is doing the sport. But motions we do in the weight room are similar and help enhance the ability to do those sport specific drills on the field playing that sport.
Awesome, Coach. There's a lot of gold there, and I really appreciate and I really love those three questions you have your guys ask every day. And it reminded me of our lift we just did about 30 minutes with our guys, and I told them, you talk about, did you do your best? Well, 3 sets of 8 on an exercise can look a lot different. Just because you did 3 sets of 8 doesn't mean you had the intent and did your possible best and test your limits on it.
Exactly.
So like today we were doing like a Bulgarian or a rear foot elevated split squat. And I said, I haven't seen ever, I don't think, anybody fail on rep 6 of a set of 8 of split squat because they're going too heavy. But I see guys all the time missing rep 6 on dumbbell bench if it's 8 reps. So what's the difference there? Where are you, challenging yourself? So that's good stuff, Coach.
Right. That's a great thing, because I always joke around with our guys, because our guys know every time they come in the weight room, there's one thing I'm going to be hard on, and that's the go muscles. I said, because I already know you're going to work the show muscles. Right. We're going to work the heck out of the go muscles. And I said, that's the intent, because a lot of people hate doing legs or hate doing this because they're hard and stuff. And I said, so that's what I really keep them accountable on, because they're going to do extra bench. They're going to do extra shoulders, curls, and all that. So they know that's not even in the program. They're going to do that. But we make sure we work the go muscles, which is from the ribs down. We're going to work the hell out of, make sure they're done right. We're going to do them at least 3 times a week, and then the show muscles twice a week.
Love it. All right, Coach. What are some ways you're helping build leaders and building team camaraderie? I can tell that you're all in on these guys and you're passionate about it. So, what are some unique ways maybe you help build leaders within your weight room?
In the weight room, I make them lead warm-ups. I'll tell one guy to do something, then he'll lead. The next guy will lead something else, and have them hear those voices, because they hear my voice too much, they'll tune out. But if they hear their other guys doing it and leading it, they'll listen in more in that way. We also put them Coach Golf now is brought in where we have committees now that they pick 2 leaders, and then they go that way and have to lead in charge of, keeping the locker room clean, keeping the field clean, keeping the meeting rooms clean, stuff like that. So that's how we're developing leaders in that manner. Plus just talking to people and just making them realize, hey, you have a right to say something. You do nothing. You've never missed. You do everything right. You do everything you're asked to. Why are you allowing other people not to do that? And have them speak up. But leaders, as far as that, just put them in roles in position to lead. Tell them, hey, you got this guy today. Take him through the workout with you. You got this guy today. Do that, and make them learn each other and be able to communicate and talk to each other to become leaders. Because actually, I want everybody on the team to lead somebody, and that's what we. But usually our seniors or upperclassmen is the one we try to turn into team captains and all that, and they usually start phasing themselves into that when they see a missing part of it. Like juniors saw what the seniors did last year, so now two seniors this year for this 2019 class are adding on what they thought that we need more of to be successful this year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they find the roles, and actually some of our seniors last year went up to other players that were juniors and said, hey, you could be a natural leader. Why don't you take over my spot and be the leader now when I'm gone? Don't let this go downhill. So that's how we do it. It's actually very nice because of the success we've had and the students work so hard and being successful. It's not hard to find leaders. It's just then teaching the leaders how to lead in their style, but in a leadership way, if that makes sense. Because I don't want people leading trying to be somebody else, because then nobody's going to follow them. I want them to lead the way who they are, so they follow the people because they know it's genuine and real, because everybody can see through a fake leader. I want them to be themselves and understand what they're good at leading at, what they're not good at leading at, and be honest with the players too. Say, look, I'm not very good at this. Somebody else has to do this because I'm better at this. And that's how you become leaders in a team, where people pick each other up from where the weaknesses are. And that's what I said I learned from my dad. People have other strengths and people have other weaknesses. Complement each other when you're leading. Make sure one leader's be able to do this well but can't do this well. Make sure the other leader can do that well. So that's how we kind of pick and choose what we do and how people talk to each other and how they relate to each other, so we have a good mix of leaders.
I love that complementary concept you're talking about. And before we started recording here, we were kind of talking about that within your staff. So give us a little background about what staff you do have, and how do you manage them, develop them, get them on the same page, and what are you looking for in a staff member?
Okay, in a staff member, I look for people that complement my weaknesses, as I said, and are more intelligent than I am. I'm a person I want to be the dumbest person in the room, to be honest, because that's the only way I'm going to learn and improve myself also, because if I'm not improving myself, I'm not improving the strength conditioning program, because it's not my program, it's the athlete's program, and I'm just fortunate enough and blessed enough to help train these athletes. So if I'm not making myself better, I'm doing the whole program an injustice. So I always hire people smarter than me and stronger in my weaknesses. How I go about that is I hire people that are unique. And what I mean by unique is they have different traits that can communicate better with some athletes better than I do, or they do things better than I can. So they can touch more athletes during our training programs. Like there's some kids, every coach has a kid where you just can't communicate with or talk to because you do a good job of it, but it's not, you don't hit that personal spot because there's such a contrast between you two. And that's like in every business and all that. So if you have people that can touch that kid and make him understand more what you're saying, then you have more buy-in. So what I do is usually, now that I've been part of, here for 23 years, I have a great staff that helps, old staff that helps me bring in new GAs and new interns because they already know what I need and want. And they help me say, hey, I got a guy for you. This guy's good, or that and this. And then my GAs that are here now, my philosophy is with GAs and all that is if I have an intern, I'm training an intern to be a GA, not to be an intern, because I'm trying to train him for his next job. So I'm trying to train my GAs to be assistants. So part of assistants is finding GAs. So I have them go through the interview process and looking at resumes and then telling me why they think this person's stronger than this person or why we should call this person over that person. So I'm teaching them how to be assistants. So when they get into the assistant world, they're all ready to be a first or second or third assistant instead of being a fifth or sixth or whatever assistant. So that's my philosophy. Is always training for the next job. So I look, and my staff knows that, and the old GAs know that now that are full-time. They help me with that.
Yeah, you got my head spinning with all kinds of ideas right now.
Plus, I never want somebody to be me. When my GAs come in, I tell them I don't want another me. I give them an umbrella to train under or develop programs on. I don't tell them this is the way we do it, this is it. I say, okay, here's my umbrella. This is the philosophy we use here in Valdosta State University. How are you going to make programs with this philosophy? And let them make the program and then come defend it to me. They have to defend every program they write, and if they can justify it scientifically and all that, I'll let them do it because they're not going to be another me because they're not. When they leave here, they're not going to have the facilities here. They're not going to have the same athletes or the same coaches. So I want to be able to free thinkers. I'm not a big guy that like this is the Doscher way. There is no Doscher way. Doscher way is where you're at, what you have. I want you to be confident enough in front of your athletes and your coaches to defend your program and have them buy into you, not saying, well, you're just taking this program from someplace else and trying to apply it here. It ain't going to work. You have unique situations everywhere. So I always have my GAs defend their workouts in front of me and have to justify it. And I might disagree with it, but if they scientifically justify why, then I can't argue with it because it will work. If it doesn't work, they'll learn more from their mistakes than they ever will their successes. So if I don't let them program and make little mistakes, not huge mistakes that are going to hurt the athletes, of course, obviously, but say, like, if I've tried something and say, hey, it didn't work that way, well, I'm trying it this way. Well, all right, go ahead and try it, but I think you're going to have a problem with it. They're going to learn more that way than me just telling them, well, don't do that. So I try to teach them how to develop their own philosophy and be themselves. If I'm talking too fast or rambling, just tell me and cut me off.
No, I love it. You're just spitting out gold here, so I'm all in on it. You're good. So next question here is, you've been there for 23 years, and like you said, you went from a 900 square foot room to 7,500. And I'm sure there's other hurdles you've had to cross and tough challenges along the way. Maybe give us an example or what's the toughest hurdle you've had to overcome, and kind of how did you go about overcoming those challenges?
Well, the biggest challenge in being Division II is, financial. Just trying to get stuff and trying to get the equipment you need and finding ways around the budget situation. Like GAs, getting GAs was hard for a while until through using the NCAA and the CSCCA's, risk management protocols and liabilities and guidelines, and saying, hey, this is a liability. You have me covering 40 people in this weight room. That's a liability. We get sued if somebody really gets hurt in here and wants to pursue it. A good lawyer is going to kill us because there's not enough coverage. So using all the standards and guidelines out of both organizations, helps you immensely with the lawyers and stuff. Because once you get lawyers involved, for some reason they find money. Isn't that funny? So that's a great asset for anybody that's a young strength coach in a bad situation. Always look at the standard guidelines and say, hey, just letting you know that I'm informing you. So if anything happens, it's not on me because I've informed you that we have a liability here. If we choose not to fix it and somebody gets hurt, it's off of me now because I've informed you of the liability. So, and then people wake up when they hear those words, and then, the school could be named John Doe University very quickly because we're negligent. Also, another thing is just athletes buy-in. Being at Division II, we get a lot of transfers down or transfers over and stuff. Just making them learn quickly that they've come from different backgrounds or different things, or they treat different ways at different institutions. That no, this is the way it's done here. But everybody has that problem. When I first got here, I have every coach buy into my program because they think I'm crazy because. As I said, the go muscles and the show muscles, they're always used to letting the athletes do all the show muscles. And they're oh, well, coach, he's got a game tomorrow. Or he's got to do this. We can't do that. We can't do this with his legs. I'm like, no, we got to because he's got to perform. So just winning them over with the program and stuff, that just takes time and communication and a little give, a little take, and, knowing what battles to fight and what not to fight, and then just doing the same thing with the athletes. Basically comes down to building relationships and communicating. And if you do that, that solves 99% of problems. But the biggest one's financial usually. And, as I said, use liability as a source, get help for new equipment and spacing of a weight room. That's one of the biggest things I've learned when we designed this weight room. I relied on the standard guidelines hugely because they're like, well, you only need this much space. I'm like, no, legally we need this much space because we have this many athletes. The square footage per athlete's this, so we need this. And that helped me a lot, too, get the space we need and stuff because they didn't want lawsuits down the road about how we do and stuff. So that helped there. And then I showed them how outdated equipment was. And so just using those standards and stuff helps you immensely on facilities at least. And then my dad always taught me is when you ask for something, ask for, like, if you want 100 square feet, ask for 125 so you get, because they're going to cut a quarter of it somewhere, right. So at least you'll get your 100. Right. So always ask bigger, like I asked for 15 stations, I got 10. So, always ask for more than you want, so when you get what you want, you act disappointed, but you're really happy. Yeah. So those are things I learned along the way, too, because one time I didn't. I got under what I needed, and I had to go find a way to get it. And luckily, fortunate enough, have some very nice boosters that helped me out and think highly of the program that helped us out get what we needed the rest of it. I hope that answered, the problems and situations you have. Is just, every college has the same ones, but they're done differently. So just, yeah.
No, absolutely. No, and there's great stuff in there to think about, especially with the standard guidelines or whatever. I think that's a great way to go about it and cover your basis, so you're not the one getting screwed when something does happen. What are some ways that you have been able to acquire some additional funding with financial being an issue? Have you had any unique ways? I know a lot of people do T-shirt sales and that type of stuff, but are you doing anything different?
Well, as I said, I've been blessed. I have a really he's become a really good friend. He actually treats me like we're family, and he treats my children like they're his grandchildren. A booster that helps me out immensely in the weight room. Just developed a relationship over the years with him, and then another gentleman that helps me out. So I'm very blessed where I get anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 a year from those two guys for equipment and stuff like that. And I usually spend it. I take Al Miller and Al Vermeil taught me this. Is I take most of my money and spend it on conferences and educational stuff. Because it's more the mind is than the equipment. Because we have enough equipment now. Because when we redid the facility, there's a big fundraiser for that, so we were able to get our equipment. But for extra stuff and educating my staff and taking care of my staff, that's where that money helps. So that's what I've been really blessed for. So I hadn't do much fundraising. And then I've also been able to tap into what's called, and sometimes every school has it, it's just named differently or it's named in a different manner, end-of-the-year funds, where it's a certain line item and being part of the school, and plus also me teaching, being in the KSP department, being an instructor, on top of being a strength coach, I can tap into some educational funds and get some extra money at the end of the year to buy some equipment and stuff like that we need, because if they don't spend it, they're going to lose it. So if it's a safety one year, I'll talk about how I need this for our classes, weight training classes for safety, because they are student athletes. So I always say our athletes are students, so they will benefit from this. Your students will benefit. Right. And I use those loopholes. It goes both ways with that, and that's why I love the athletes don't need that. I said, no, wait a minute, they're student athletes, so our students need it. And then they can't say anything because they want us to be student athletes, but they won't count them as students. And then when I do, they get caught, and they have to, because now they're being hypocrites if they don't.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the way you work with the administration a little bit. And we have a great administration here now that does a phenomenal job with that. They understand it. They get it. and they help our athletes immensely. So, but funding, I'm lucky I don't have to fundraise. We have a good foundation. Matt Malone is our guy that works with the athletics department. He's a great job raising money.
Well, you mentioned that you spend a lot of the money you get from boosters on education. What are some of your favorite resources, whether you like to hand off to your staff or a certain conference you like to go to? Where are you going to?
We try to go to both conferences. We go to CSCCA and we go to the NSCA ones as much as we can. And then, I had a couple of GAs that wanted to go to Summer Strong. We were able to go send them to Summer Strong. Also just, keeping their memberships up to date. That, GAs don't get paid very much, and mine get paid very, very little. So I pick up their memberships. I pick up their if they're going to take the exam, I built it into their exam, so I pay for their exams. So it's not out of their pocket. I try to do the best I can to help them. One thing I was always taught by my father-in-law and my dad, but my father-in-law taught me this. He goes, always take care of people, because people make the program doesn't make the people. So I treat my staff as well as I can be. We take them out to dinner as much as I can. I buy their lunch as much as I can. Every Tuesday it's $5 dozen bagels, so I get 2 dozen bagels, and we have bagels every Tuesday. So I try to treat my staff, and that's what I use that money for. Buy them clothes, make sure that, proper equipment. And if they want to buy a book, I'll buy the book for them, and they just keep it here. And then when they go, I think one of my guys bought the system or wanted to book the system, so we picked that up. And then, other things like that. So that's how we do that. And we use our funds for that. If we need equipment or something breaks, we have enough funds to hopefully do that also and fix it. But I try to take care of my staff as much as I can.
People make the program. Program doesn't make the people. One of my favorite lines from you so far. I love it. So, all right, Coach, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little training. What's your training philosophy or some of the principles that guide your programming with your athletes?
Okay, my principles and philosophy is we clean, we do variations of the clean, we squat, we do a lot of different squatting exercises, different types of squats, rear foot elevated front squat, rear foot elevated back squats, dumbbell step up to back lunge, star lunges, basically any type of leg movement we do. My philosophy though is never to just squat. And if we go heavy on squat, why can't we go heavy on front squat? Why can't we go heavy on deadlift? Why can't we rotate around? I utilize various methods throughout the year depending on what level we have. I categorize my athletes into 3 levels: the beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And based on that, we then develop programs off of that. Our beginner guys are guys that have to get much bigger and much stronger. Our intermediate guys are big enough; they just have to get much stronger. Their strength to mass ratio isn't well at all, and our advanced guys have good strength to mass ratios. Now we just have to make them move the weight faster, and teach them how to move everything faster. I don't care if he squats 500 pounds at a 0.3 on a Tendo unit. The advanced guy, I want him to move it by 0.6 within 6 to 8 months. So my idea is how much weight. It's not how much you lift. It's how fast can you move that weight when we deal with our advanced guys. So we'll use anywhere from APRE to trifecta phasing to 5-3-1 to just straight conjugate sometimes, but it rotates around. Like an example, if we're going to squat, say here's a good example. We're on a 5-day program, Monday through Friday. We lift every day. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we do legs. So Monday might be your front squat day. It might be 5 sets of 2 of eccentric 5-second lowerings, and then we go to Wednesday where we squat. We squat big on Wednesday. Big squat day is Wednesday, so those are days we squat. Because I feel like they coming in Monday, they're just not ready from a weekend and all that, and Friday they're burnt out. So Wednesday's usually the perfect day. I got that from Cal Dietz, and it seems to work out really well. So we might do APR. So say it's an intermediate, he has to get stronger. So we might do APR 6 that day for them, and then on the deadlift day we might do a volume day where they do 3 sets of 12 or 3 sets of 8 or something like that. And then the next rotation, so if they did eccentrics on front squat, they might do iso, and then eccentric moves over to squat, and then wherever we did a squat rep range would go over deadlift. So I utilize mine's really like undulating, because they'll do an eccentric day, an iso day, a 90 plus day, an APR day. So I just rotate them around all the exercises so they get exposed to different types of schemes and stresses on each exercise, so we're making a better athlete. I don't care if we're not making bodybuilders, we're not making power lifters or Olympic lifters. So I'm utilizing everything to make sure they have a coat of armor on them. No matter what the exercise, they're strong in every exercise, not just 1, 2, or 3 of them.
I'm always interested on how coaches execute certain things about their program, and you're talking about your 3 levels. So say you got 25 guys in there to lift, you could have essentially 3 different workouts going on, or are they all pretty similar, just slight variations?
They're all similar, just the rep ranges and percentages are different. Now, some cases they will get different total workouts. Like in the summer, they'll get, when we get preseason advanced workouts, they might start doing some contrast training. Well, they'll do a heavy set and then they'll do plyos, while the intermediates and beginners are doing plyos outside, then come in and lift. It depends where we are and what phase we are in training. But usually in the winter, all the exercises are usually the same. It's just volume, intensity, and schemes a little different. That's all.
Gotcha.
Like with my beginners, if I'm on APR 6 for the intermediates, we're on APR 10 in the beginning for our beginners, because they need hypertrophy. Right. They need sarcoplasmic and myofibril hypertrophy. Well, my intermediates just need myofibril, and then my advanced guys already have the size and the strength. We just need to get them to activate the nervous system better, so they'll be on different percentages. And so like I don't think none of our beginners or intermediates during the winter season will do 10 sets of 2 on a minute and moving the tendo unit at a 1-0. But our advanced guys will be, because that's what we're trying to work on. So they'll work more for tendo or have a different rep scheme than everybody else, because I want better quality than quantity.
Sure. Perfect. That makes complete sense. What is one thing or a couple things? What are you excited about learning and improving on in the next 5 years or 2 years or whatever it might be? Like, kind of what's next for you and developing as a coach?
Developing as a coach,
or your program,
just
or whatever.
Learning what to do. Just learning new. I mean, and taking. Mike Boyle said the best. When you first start out, you're a sushi or you're a food prep, and then you become a line chef, and then you become a sous chef, and then you become a chef, and then you become a master chef. Well, doing this now for 30 years, I know all the spices and recipes. I'm really excited now to see what I can do and develop programs better each time for each level of athlete. Because when you have an advanced athlete, well, the program that you just did has to be better the next time. So I'm challenging myself to get better each time with my program designs. One thing I want to do, and utilizing all spices and finding a unique way to hit my athletes that they haven't been hit before. And then also just basically helping this younger generation go back to, not I want to say old school or all that, but go back to our roots, because I think we're getting too far away from our roots. All this functional and all this has its place, and it does, but I think our generations now are getting too, the best word I say is circusy about stuff, and they're afraid to go heavy, they're afraid to do this, and correctional and imbalances. Like everything's going, I do chains and bands and all that, but even functional movements with bands. Well, once you correct the dysfunction, why aren't we just using weights, because we fixed the problem? But now they're like, well, we'll say bands to make it more difficult. Well, why are we making it more difficult if we already fixed the dysfunction? And that's the way I'm starting to. I'd like to get back to where lifting's more important than all this gimmick stuff and everything like that that come out. So that's my goal, is to make sure that we educate our kids that what's old is new and what's new is old. Don't try to overthink something. Keep the KISS method going.
It's kind of like
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's kind of go back to your food analogy. Is it too many coaches are trying to be the master chef without mastering the food prep?
Right, exactly.
I mean, I agree, and I find myself as a young strength coach battling that quite a bit, and I mentioned on this show quite a bit that the simpler I make it, the better program we have, and the more results we get right now with where our athletes are at.
And it works too, right? Oh my goodness, it worked.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
All right, Coach, I really appreciate your time. Let's wrap this up. 4 or 5 quick questions here. Just kind of give me the first thing pops off the top of your head. Sound good?
Okay.
What is your favorite book?
The Subtle Art of Not Giving a...
Heard of that one. It's good. Favorite office snack?
My favorite what right now?
Office snack. What are you snacking on in your office? Midday.
I like the cranberries, cashews, and almonds mix.
Good.
My favorite treat, though, is Rice Krispie treat.
There you go. Can't go wrong there. Who's the biggest influence in your life?
My father, my mother, and my father-in-law.
15 minutes to train. What are you doing for yourself?
Complexes.
Nice. Any particular one you like, your go-to?
My go-to is 5 deadlifts, 5 floor cleans, 5 front squat to press, 5 RDLs, 5 back bent over rows.
I'll get the heart rate going. That's good. All right, last one here, Coach. Who's another small school strength coach who you think's just doing a great job and deserves a shout-out?
Oh, shoot. I mean, anybody right now in the Gulf South Conference, Morgan at West Florida, my buddy up at West Georgia, he's doing a good job. I mean, Monty's doing a good job. I mean, we all do a great job because we all have special differences. I don't ever say I do a job better than everybody else because I'm not in their situation. But everybody, all the strength coaches, we all do a great job of what we have, and that's the respect I have for everybody that is a strength coach. So, I mean, I'm never going to pick one out, but, we all have our unique jobs. We all do our jobs well, so that's the great thing about our profession is we're here for the athletes. We don't have egos, and we all help each other out. So I give a shout out to every single one of y'all, and that's the most important thing to me is just keep doing your job and doing it well.
No doubt. Coach, this has been awesome. I'll put your email in the show notes for coaches who want to maybe reach out to you. I really appreciate you coming on. You're doing obviously big things there at Valdosta and have had a lot of success with your program. So thanks, Coach, and good luck the rest of the semester.
Well, thank you very much. It was an honor and very humbling to do this. Thank you.